Hi there, and welcome to On the Record. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of speaking with bassist, arranger, composer, and multi-talented individual Christian McBride about his music, some new music he's introducing, as well as the importance of good quality audio and listening at home and the pleasure that brings. Christian was performing at Scullers Jazz Club here in Boston, and he was introducing a new band entitled Ursa Major. Christian recently won his 10th and 11th Grammy Award for his performances on Chick Corea's Trilogy album, as well as his own album, Without Further Ado, Volume 1 on Mack Avenue Records. I hope you enjoy this conversation I had with Christian as much as I did. Welcome, Christian, and thanks for the opportunity, and congratulations on the 2 Grammy wins.
Thank you.
Does it ever get old?
Oh, of course not. You know, when you get acknowledged by your peers and your contemporaries that say, we appreciate the job you did on these recent projects, no, that never gets old.
Well, I didn't think so, but, figured I had to ask. You won this year with both a trio and a big band, which shows a lot of versatility, and you've had recordings of duets, big bands, quintet tonight, and is there a favorite format that you have? I mean, do you find it easier to write and arrange for a big band versus a duet, let's say, or?
Well, personally, I have always found it ironic that I have a much easier time writing for my big band than I do a smaller group. I feel that most people would assume that, there's less people, less options. That's always been difficult for me. But when I see my big band, when I see those 4 trumpets and 4 trombones and 5 saxophones, I'm like, I got nothing but ideas.
Well, I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a big band. I love that big band full sound. And especially on this latest album with, some of my favorite vocalists, Diane Reeves and Samara Joy. And, I could go through the whole list, but we only have a few minutes. I think it was Frank Zappa who once quipped, jazz is not dead, it just smells funny.
Yeah.
And, it's in reference to, the fact that things were getting a little bit stale and they just wasn't a lot of invention going on back there in the day, and you seem to be the antithesis of that. You're bringing new artists forward. You're highlighting them with the band, with the group tonight. Do you feel that's a mission of yours, or is that just something you hear somebody and you say, I want to play with them?
Well, dare I go on the record and say Frank Zappa was actually wrong, but people love Frank Zappa, so you can't really, you can't push back on a rock legend. But when he made that quip, which I believe was in the mid-'70s, that was in the real height of the jazz fusion era. And when that was going on, people assumed that there was nothing going on in acoustic straight-ahead jazz. And there very much was. Now, it wasn't popular. That wasn't like the contemporary thing that people were spending time with. But when you're improvising, it's always fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now the context can always change, but the actual act of improvising is always something that's exciting, or at least you like to think it's always exciting. So do I think I'm a person of this contemporary era who is doing that? I mean, I'm not sure I'm the right person to judge that. All I can say is that with my position as a band leader, it's my job to elevate and showcase new young voices. And with this band I'm playing with tonight, Ursa Major, I have 4 of the leading young voices in improvisational music that are just really, they're just slaying everything and everybody right now. Nicole Glover on tenor saxophone, and Eli Pearlman on guitar, Mike King on piano and keyboards, and Savannah Harris on drums. If you follow them outside of my band, you will see that they are doing incredible things all the time, all over the place. And that's my main job, making sure they get heard. And if they push the music forward, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I look forward to the concert tonight. I mean, that should be exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
So I suppose we should speak a little bit about audio, since we're an audio company and this is kind of an audio blog thing.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what was the first album you ever bought?
The first, see, I think my history is interesting because both my father and my great uncle are professional musicians. My great uncle doesn't play anymore, and my uncle. Not my great uncle, but my mother's brother was a promotions and advertising manager at a popular radio station in Philadelphia, WHAT. And so my whole life was being surrounded by records. So that's my earliest memory as a human being probably is putting on a record, or going to the radio station with my uncle on occasion and seeing the DJs put the record on. I'd just be fascinated. I'd be behind the glass like, wow, look at that. And the whole city is hearing that, But I remember the first record that I ever picked out on my own. I was in middle school and I was named a National Scholar. I was in the National Directory, Presidential Scholar, and so for my good grades, my mother took me on a record spree. We went to King James Records on 56 and what was it? It was either Race or Arch. I think it was Arch, 56 and Arch. And this was right at the time Blue Note Records were starting to reinvent themselves. This was in the 1984, 85. And they had a whole wall full of Blue Note reissues. And I was just starting to get into jazz. And my mom said, pick something. And so I'm just kind of looking at the wall and I see Horace Silver, Jimmy Smith, Lee Morgan, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. I'm going, oh man.
Can't go wrong with any of
It
that.
all looks good. I don't know what to pick. So I just kind of went like this. And I picked Wayne Shorter's Juju. And I recognized the names, McCoy Tyner, Reggie Workman, and Elvin Jones. I said, well, this should be okay. And I came home and that was, I fell in love with that album, man.
Got in with both feet.
Yeah, big time.
So I saw an interview somewhere where you started out with a love for R&B and
that has remained.
Has it? So is that a big part of why you are open to some of the new artists that bring that influence into the jazz world?
Well, I kind of, again, I think having a family steeped in music, there was never any differentiation in my family between jazz and R&B. Like they played all of that music one behind the other, so they would play a James Brown record and they follow it up with Lou Donaldson, then they play Parliament Funkadelic and then followed up with Pharoah Sanders, or they play, some Motown, the Temptations, and then follow that up with, Jimmy Smith. And so there was never anyone in my family saying, this is jazz, this is R&B soul, They just said, this is black music, it's all one and the same, So, and throw in some Richie Havens and some Odetta in there, for good measure. And then we had a lot of comedy albums, also. So like throw some Flip Wilson in there as well.
Mom's Mabley.
Absolutely, some comedians I weren't allowed to listen to, but
I guess at that age I was a little risky.
I just snuck them in at night, I had to put my ear to the speaker real close,
So now when you listen at home now, is it kind of the same way, or is it mostly listening for professional reasons, or is it a lot of home listening entertainment?
It depends. I think if I'm listening to something specifically for a project that I'm working on, it's mostly from my laptop or some WAV file that someone has sent me, But when I do my casual listening, it's always vinyl. Even in the 90s, during the CD era, I never stopped listening to my vinyl, because I always enjoyed it more. I enjoyed the sound of of a well taken care of record, you know, and a well taken care of system. And I didn't, you know, when I was living in Manhattan in my 20s during the 90s, you know, I didn't have the best system. You know, I had what I could afford, you know, but I took really good care of my records, and I took really good care of my turntables. So even though my speakers were crappy, I was still able to really enjoy the process.
Good to hear that, because you know we've been proponents of vinyl for a long time, and you know what we make, and you know we make some pretty good vinyl equipment.
Yes.
I just wondering, I mean, when you're listening to vinyl, you obviously love vinyl and like records. Is there anything different about making music for albums, whether they be vinyl or CD, versus sort of the streaming one and done world that's out there these days?
Right. Well, I think it's important for me to pay attention to records / analog recording, specifically because of my instrument, because of the bass. I'm not sure that people realize that sometimes, like, when you listen to vinyl, that's the actual true bass frequency, you know? So, like, you can, on a CD or on a streaming service, yes, you can hear the bass. In some cases, you can hear the bass well. But when you're sitting in front of a speaker and you can hear that bass coming from the electricity going through the needle and then through the apparatus coming out of those speakers, you actually get the true bass effect.
It's a feel, right?
It's a feel, yeah. And you can't quite get that just here, you know, and certainly not with earbuds, you know.
Right.
And I don't care how good they are, you know. So when I'm in the studio making recordings, I'm very much key, and my engineer as well. Shout out to the great Todd Whitelock, who's worked on pretty much all of my records for the last 15 years or so. We think about what it's going to sound like on vinyl.
That's a great endorsement of the format that,
yeah, man.
You know, everybody says it was dead and is coming back.
Right.
But for some of us, it's never left.
It never left.
Like you, I've been playing vinyl all the way through the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though when the first CD came out, I said, don't have to worry about this cleaning records anymore. But, you know, it never went away.
I remember everybody said, it sounds so much better than vinyl. And I remember thinking, like, well, I don't know if clearer is better, you know, because, I mean, obviously I loved CDs as well. You know, we used to buy those little booklets and take them on the road with us, you know, so.
Yeah, it's tough to play an LP in a car, right?
Right. So, you know, we take the booklet out of the plastic, put them in a little thing, and we have our little CD Bibles that we would take on the road with us. But when I would come home, crank on the turntable, you know, and I would have people come over to the house and we just listen to Miles Davis records and Coltrane records and James Brown records and have a ball.
Oh man, it brings back the 70s. You know, one thing, you know, I know you're busy and you got to get to this concert soon, but you know, just a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you posted on Instagram. You had a nice post that featured our Andover 1 record player on there, where you said, "This thing is mean." Okay, I assume that means good.
Hey, didn't you just say brought back memories of the 70s?
Okay, good. That means I don't have to do software that makes it apologize to you. Okay.
Well, yeah, you could do that and say, "Hey, this is me." Like, I'm sorry, you know. But no, man, it's I really enjoy that system. My wife, we were saying, "Where are we going to put this?" And I was going to put it in my office, and she was like, "No, you have enough. You already have a system in your office. I'm taking this." You know. I was like, "Well, I'm not going to argue with you." So we found a nice, comfortable place in our living room, and we sit there in the living room, and it really brings back. First of all, the sound is incredible. You know that that small integrated system is really a clear, powerful sound. And where we have it set up, the sounds is kind of, it covers the whole living room. And there's a certain serenity, a certain peace that brings back memories of when I was a kid, just kind of sitting in the living room with my mom and grandma, just sort of randomly put on a record. And, my mom or grandmother would be reading a book, listening to the record, and my grandmother would say, "Oh, I like that. Who is that?" And then they read the liner notes. It's just like, so having a record player in the living room just to actually chill and pay attention to the music does some very good things for the soul.
Yeah, I fully agree with. Obviously, I fully agree with you because we're making record players. But I remember back in the day, sitting down. I was of an era where a lot of the fusion was coming in, and a lot of R&B. My cousin got me into jazz and would sit me down in front of his speakers, and I'd sit there with the liner notes and read, Orrin Keep News, or Mark Figa or somebody, Leonard Feldman, read the liner notes about, you don't get that with streaming.
No, you do not.
And you don't really get that so much with CDs because, it's hard to read that stuff.
Strong glasses.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, and we thank you for your efforts to keep jazz smelling good.
And thanks for giving us something to play it on.
All right.
To prove that it smells good.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.